Well, congratulations, everyone who is part of the, who have they beaten club? Because this must have been a really great weekend for you to be like, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, and I told you so. On the postcast episodes, by the way, hi, I'm Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Make sure you like and subscribe on the Farzy Show YouTube channel, Jacob Media YouTube channel, Locked On Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, and all that fun stuff. Here's the way I looked at yesterday. Yesterday was the World Series of they haven't beaten anybody. All right, I said that before the game. So yeah, that's a high bar, to say it's the World Series of that, and I really felt that way. So I really would have liked, as we all would have, Zach Wheeler to go out there and dominate. I was really, honestly, truthfully expecting a 2-1 ball game, a 3-1 ball game, knowing how Corbin Burns has absolutely owned the Phillies, especially over his last two starts. I was expecting something along the lines of a low-scoring affair in Camden Yards, and it wasn't that. It was meatball after meatball after beach ball thrown by Zach Wheeler to the Orioles. And a lot of them, really, a lot of the home runs that the Phillies have given up most recently, Matt Strahm, Aaron Nola to O'Neill in Boston. A lot of these pitches weren't necessarily grapefruits, but they weren't exactly the best things either. And they just got tattooed. Every single mistake the Phillies made, most notably and most recently, Zach Wheeler yesterday, the opponent, in this case, the Orioles, destroyed. Anthony Santander, the Hall of Famer. Gunnar Henderson, the MVP. These guys are just tattooing baseballs. Krauser yesterday, oh my goodness gracious. Every single one. 4 home runs surrendered by Zach Wheeler. 8 earned runs. I saw the stat yesterday. The first Phillies pitcher to give up 4 home runs and 8 earned runs in a start since Vicente Padilla. In 2005. Things aren't going great right now for the Phillies. And I know some people want to look to London. It's difficult to do that, albeit that the Mets have been at home. At least they've been able to sleep in their own bed. They've won 5 in a row, while the Phillies have gone in the complete opposite direction. So, London, that's not really doing it for me. Plus, even more important, Zach Wheeler, this is his second start stateside since the London trip. And I know there was a long layoff. Maybe it'll take a little bit of time to get back. I don't even want to look at that at this point. I don't want to look for excuses. I want to look for why this is going down. When it comes to the pitchers, I believe pitchers, as I've said before, are the biggest creatures of habit in all of sports. And anything that could disrupt them could obviously throw them off just a little bit. Anything like a London trip could certainly throw them off. Anything more importantly, 11 days between starts, more so than going across the Atlantic Ocean in terms of just 11 days between starts. That can throw you off more so than getting on a flight, on a very comfortable flight, then crossing the ocean, looking around an old city for a long time, and then getting back and going to Boston. That doesn't really bother me. What bothers me is the layoff between starts. So maybe it does. Maybe Zach Wheeler does need a couple of outings before he really locks in. But when you look at the Boston series, he actually looked pretty good. He actually looked like, especially he allowed his first inning run all season. But after that was pretty damn good. And then he just goes down to Baltimore and gets blown up. Also, when he was up there in Boston, he was throwing to Garrett Stubbs and things looked fine and dandy. It wasn't like being in Miami where they had 4 innings together and he allowed 6 earned runs in that start. So I was hoping you righted the ship between the communication between yourself, Zach Wheeler, and Garrett Stubbs, because it looked to be on point in Boston. And this time around yesterday, it was god-awful. Not necessarily the communication, but certainly the lack of production. It was awful. And I know a lot of people really want to get into Rob Thomson getting thrown out of the game. I don't care. Was it interesting to see Rob Thomson be that pissed off? Sure, but what was it, 8-2 at the time? It really wasn't the lead story for me. It showed me that, this is every bit of why the Phillies love Rob Thomson. He really does want to go to bat for these guys. I mean, you're talking about Garrett Stubbs getting hit in the foot or not in an 8-2 ball game. And you're going to go out and you're going to argue that like it's you got 1 out left in the World Series with a runner on third. Hey, good for you, Rob Thomson. You certainly showed me that this is what the Phillies love you for. But man, I was like, I don't know if this is really even a big deal at this point. The fact that he's trying to get some kind of life. I had no doubt in my mind when the Orioles argued the hit by pitch with Garrett Stubbs that when they won that argument, which when the hell does that ever happen? When they won that argument and Rob Thomson came walking out, I said, he's going to get tossed. It's very easy. He's going to get tossed. He gets in Estabrook's face. The two of them start going out at it. Estabrook takes exception to the brim, I believe it was, of the cap of Rob Thomson touching his schnoz, and that was that. And then he got tossed. I appreciate what Rob Thomson was doing. For me, it's not the highlight of the game. The highlight of the game is a couple of things. So we will break it down because I know people are curious. I do think Rob Thomson certainly had an argument. The argument was, hold on a second, you called hit by pitch. You conferred with three other guys that are like at least 100 feet away, and then the other manager argues, and you say, yeah, you're right. He didn't get hit, and Stubbs got to go back to home, and then they review it, so the Phillies have to use their challenge. Doesn't make any damn sense. So anyway, that's not the highlight for me. That's not the big story. The big story for me, even more so than Zach Wheeler, because Zach Wheeler went out and was terrible. We all know he was terrible. But for 3 games in this series, there is someone that I just can't take anymore. And that fella's name is Nick Castellanos. I can't take it anymore. And I know that they can, they can't hide him unless they put him on the bench. They can't hide him. I don't know if it's a matter of moving Brandon Marsh over to right field. I don't know if it's a matter of Christian Pache in left and Jan Rojas in center. More Whit Merrifield. Not like he's been great either. I don't know what the answer is, but I know Nick Castellanos ain't it. And I know they're looking at him as if he could still break out and he could have some kind of all-star month at least to help maybe the Phillies get back on track. But I ain't seen it. And this year we have seen maybe a week or two where Nick Castellanos has looked like a guy who, this is the guy that was at least close to making an all-star game. Like playing in like close to that level again. A week or two. And it's June. It's June, what's today? It's 17th. A week or two throughout the entire season. And this guy is still not getting days off. I mean, being benched is something that would be appropriate right now. And I'm just talking about maybe giving this guy a day off or two to figure it out. I know he doesn't want to do it, but nothing else has worked this entire season. And he is coming off now a series that I think was the biggest series of the season. And what did Nick Castellanos do? What was his big highlight? He got an RBI ground out to shortstop yesterday. His biggest highlight is putting the ball in play with a runner on third base. Other than that, well, actually, including that, 0 for 14. He was 0 for the series. And he's going to be in the lineup today. Do you think Nick Castellanos is going to get a day off today? I don't think Nick Castellanos is going to get a day off today. You know what we're going to have to settle for? I love that Trey Turner's coming back, and I don't want to harp on a negative when I should be praising a positive when it comes to Trey Turner returning, and that is great. You bring that 440, it should be 343 average back to the lineup. Move Nick Castellanos back down in the order where if he belongs anywhere, it's certainly not 1 through 5. And Rob Thomson in this series had him batting second because that's somehow a good idea. I look forward to him being bumped down in the order. That's fantastic news. I love that. I love Trey Turner coming back. But you know what we're going to have to settle for? Him being moved down the lineup, him still in the lineup, him still in right field, and not him sitting his ass on the bench where it should be. I mean, this isn't even like, we should give him a day off. The Phillies are going to give him every opportunity because the Phillies, it only benefits them. And I think down the line, a trade is going to happen. I don't think he's going to play 5 years of that contract where he's getting $20 million a year. I'm looking at it like they need to at least give him the day off. You could justify him losing his job. Look at these numbers, folks. This is not just something that's all of a sudden he's in some kind of slump. March, he had 310 at bats. Good for you. April, 183. May, 229. The month of June, he's hitting 182. This includes yesterday's this weekend series. Last 7 days, he's hitting 111. There's no justifying this. There is no justifying this anymore. I appreciate, I really do. I want to acknowledge it. And I feel like I do every time because I think it's fair. And it also tells you that it's not like this is a lack of effort from Nick Castellanos. He's taking the early batting practice. He's taking extra batting practice. He's working on his craft and all that stuff. So he's done everything. He's done everything throughout the season to try to not be bad. And yet he's still in the lineup every day. He's still not producing. And still just being trotted out there every single time. For a series in the biggest series of the season. World Series preview could certainly be. And it ain't London that did this to Nick Castellanos. I mean, you just saw those numbers. Absolutely insane. The atrocious year that he is having. It ain't London. It ain't recent for Nick Castellanos. And really for this whole team. You're talking about a team that's a 500 baseball team in their last 20 games. So this is a team that has certainly had their struggles. This is a team that went a little over a month without losing back-to-back games. And now they've lost back-to-back series. They've lost 4 road series in a row. That ain't cool. That's a team hitting a wall. And maybe a Thursday they have a day off. Maybe after 3 days or about 4 days, really, including last night, where they sleep in their own beds, all that stuff. Gets their heads on right, has them pull focus a little bit more, gives them an off day. The whole team can reset. Oh, and then they come out playing like gangbusters, baby. Yeah, okay, I'll cross my fingers and hope that's the case. Hey, I hope just playing at home against the Padres. That's great. 3-game series here. That's wonderful. I hope that's the case. But all in all, I don't see much positive to pull out of a series here against the Baltimore Orioles. I still think the Phillies are a very good baseball team. I still think the Phillies are going to break their franchise record in terms of wins. They have set a very high bar for themselves in this first half of the season. Obviously, the highest bar they ever set in the first half of the season. It's been amazing to watch. I think they will get back on a similar pace, and I do think they'll break their franchise record all in all. But they ain't going to do it with the pitching that they've had, with Aaron Nola, with Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez. They're not going to do that with what we have seen as of late from this Phillies lineup. The other thing that you have reason for a little bit more optimism, other than just seeing this team play a lot better baseball in the early goings of the season and all that stuff, the vast majority of the season up until recently, is getting Trey Turner back. And then you will get JT Realmuto back. Seeing those guys get back in the lineup will obviously make you feel a lot better about everything, but Realmuto was playing in the vast majority, all but the last 6 of those 20 games that you've played, where you're only 10-10 on the season, or in those 20 games, excuse me. The Phillies, usually we have to wait till this month of June to see the best brand of baseball that the Phillies can play. Usually that's the case. My fear going into this month was, did they already unload all their bullets? Did they already fire them all off? Did we already see their best brand of baseball? Because as of right now, they're losing this epic test. Not just, the difficult travel, the odd schedule with the late 11 days off and all that stuff. But between starts for Zach Wheeler, long layoff for Aaron Nola as well. Not only are they dealing with that, but they're also dealing with the fact that they set a really high bar and they were off to a record pace. And they're still off to a record pace as a ball club. But we're used to seeing them hit that stride in June. Is this the month where they're going to cool off now? Because as of right now, it certainly seems like it. Again, June 17th, you're essentially a 500 team in your last 20 games. That ain't great. So looking at this series, looking at this return home, hey, look, the Red Sox just took 2 or 3 from the Yankees after taking 2 or 3 from the Phils. So maybe they're starting to play their best brand of baseball. Maybe that actually was a good team that the Phillies faced up there in Fenway. They split the series there in London, obviously, with the Mets. And then they go into Baltimore and they lose 2 of 3. After winning game one, knowing you had Zach Wheeler in the back pocket, a guy that's been one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball this season. And he just gets shelled. Absolutely shelled. 4 homers. I still can't believe it. So I don't know what you think the Phillies need right now, other than a trade, other than unloading Nick Castellanos. I'm ecstatic for Trey Turner to come back. If I'm Rob Thomson, Nick Castellanos can't be in the lineup tonight. but I'm not Rob Thomson. And for whatever reason, he just every day, just Nick Castellanos in the lineup. Nick Castellanos in the lineup. Oh, for the series in the biggest series of the season. Speaking of things that could be extremely positive, Alec Boehm at least looks to be back on track. That's good. That's great, actually. He goes into this series. He leaves Boston with his average dipping below 300. And forget about 300. His average dipped below 290. He was hitting 286 when he got into the batter's box at Camden Yards on Friday. He was hitting 286. He leaves this series now batting 302. His average is back up to over 300. 7 RBIs, I want to say, in this one. 7 hits. 6 RBIs, 7 hits in this series for Alec Boehm, including the game-winning RBIs in the 11-inning affair that ended late Friday night after the controversy at the plate. Alec Boehm stepped up there after the hour and 11-minute rain delay, and he settled into that batter's box, and he said, hey, let's get ahead of this one. And he gave the Phillies the lead with that 2-run double, I believe it was, in the top of the 11th inning. But yeah, good to see Alec Boehm back on track. That looks good. Making adjustments. A lot of balls going the opposite directions, which shows me he's going with the pitch. And the guy who's struggling, you got to find contact. You got to go with the pitch. He's been going with the pitch. So Alec Boehm looks to be locked in again. If he's getting locked in and they're getting Trey Turner back in this lineup and Kyle Schwarber can continue the June that he has been enjoying, yesterday was the exception, then I do, again, have confidence that the Phillies will get back on track. I also do think that this version of Aaron Nola that we've seen recently, this version of Zach Wheeler that we've seen recently, who, by the way, these two pitchers combined in the last 2 starts, 16 earned runs. I don't think that's going to be the new norm for Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. If it is, then we're talking about the historic start that the Phillies had to the season. We're talking about probably a more historic collapse in the Philadelphia Eagles. But I don't think that's going to go down that way. As I said, I still see the Phillies winning at least 103 games this season, which means they will beat their franchise record. So I will look forward to seeing that. Also in this series, moment of silence for 27 innings without allowing an earned run for Matt Strahm. I referenced it earlier when it came to bad pitches getting hit out of the park. Matt Strahm made a bad pitch. I'm excuse me, Matt Strahm made a good pitch that was not meant to be driven out of the park, up and away, and I think it was Santander just turned on it and belted that baseball over the left field wall at Camden Yards. He's been obviously great. He's been an all-star, and it sucks that he had to give up that home run. It sucks that he gave up at that time, but it reminded me a lot of the O'Neill home run off Aaron Nola. That was a pitch that was low and outside. No way meant to be a home run, not at all a home run pitch, and that ball went 430 feet. This pitch that Matt Strahm threw went up and away to Anthony Santander. I think it was his second homer of the game. Yeah, and that one went, I think, 385 feet. Not great, obviously, but also not a great pitch to hit, and that's the way that went down for Matt Strahm, unfortunately. I want to gauge where you guys are at as far as your confidence in this Philadelphia Phillies team. Is it all over now? They haven't beaten anybody, people? They're having a great day today? Are they really enjoying themselves? Do they love every ounce of this, right? And where do you think the Phillies go? Do you think this is the beginning of the end? Is this a bump in the road? Or is this who the Phillies really have been all year because they haven't beaten anybody? When in reality, they have beaten people. They just haven't beaten the Orioles. Not 2 out of 3, unfortunately. They lose 2 out of 3. So where are you at right now with this Phillies ball club? And when it comes to who they truly are, I think the worst case scenario is they still win the NL East. The Dodgers might end up taking them over. Maybe, but I still feel as if this team has got it in the back pocket to win the NL East, and they will obviously be right there at the end of the season to win the entire National League, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. File me under bump in the road. That's where I'm at with this Phillies squad. A couple other things from this series. Although the result was terrible yesterday with Zach Wheeler, Garrett Stubbs behind the plate, Rafael Marchand got one start in this series, hit a home run, which was great to see. But for the most part, the Phillies were just outmatched. Is really what it came. When you lose 8-3 and 6-2, you're pretty much outmatched. When your only win of the series comes in an 11-inning affair, that means you squeaked out that win. And the Phillies certainly did in that instance. The other thing, I was going to get into the Rob Thomson fiasco a little bit more, but yeah, that's the way that series went, unfortunately. As far as Rob Thomson going out there in the 6th inning and trying to argue for his players, I think, number one, it reminded me of, I think Larry Boa told a story when he was working with the Yankees about Joe Torre purposely getting run. And managers do that in baseball, at least back in the day when you would argue a lot. I have no doubt about it that when Rob Thomson went out there, he was going to get run. I had an idea that it was for the good of the team in terms of trying to get some kind of life out of them at that point in the game. And you're coming into an inning there in the 6th inning where, unfortunately, you're already trailing 8-2. This was a situation where Garrett Stubbs goes up there to lead off the inning, trying to get anything going, some semblance of something, trying to get that going. And Garrett Stubbs starts off the inning and gets hit in the foot, allegedly. He points to his foot. Mike Estabrook behind the plate says, yeah, take first base. And then the Orioles argue. The umpires come together and somehow rule that Garrett Stubbs was not hit by the pitch. So then they review it, or Rob Thomson comes out. They review it. Rob Thompson's pissed. He gets in the face of Mike Estabrook. They start going back and forth. I have no doubt that he's trying to rev up his team a little bit, Rob Thomson, and they end up tossing Rob Thomson. After the game, Rob Thompson's argument was, well, hold on a second. How can you appeal something as close as this to a first base umpire or second base umpire or even third base umpire? How are you arguing this and coming up with a different conclusion when it's that close? How do you do that? And they're saying, well, if you don't like it, challenge. So Rob Thomson said, why should I use my challenge when they're the one that's arguing? You already overturned it, and it's almost inconclusive. And you already overturned it before we even went to replay. Why do I got to do that? If you award the bag, then award the bag. Don't go and confer and go, oh, what do you guys think? Who did you guys see from 100 feet away? Oh, that? Oh, okay, fine. I'll take your note on it. All right, yeah, Stubby, go home plate. Again, for me, it's not the lead story of this, as I just talked about with Nick Castellanos and Zach Wheeler, but it is a part of the story that at least Rob Thomson, sensing that his team was lifeless and needed something, he went out there and tried to get him going. It reminded me of Larry Boa back in the day with the Phillies in the early 2000s. Charlie would certainly get revved up from time to time. It was something that I think the Phillies were, or something that Rob Thomson was trying to do to get something going from a lifeless team, unfortunately. In an 8-2 ball game, where you're playing now arguably the best team in baseball. Credit to Rob Thomson for it. Hated Nick Castellanos batting second. As a matter of fact, when Rob Thomson was getting all pissed off, I was like, this is how I felt when I looked at the lineup card and saw Nick Castellanos batting second again. Not great, Rob. Not great. Sometimes his little promotions work when players are struggling. It gets him going. It got like a good week from Nick Castellanos. It had maybe a good 2 weeks from Nick Castellanos in the middle of May. Other than that, it's been pretty terrible. It's been pretty god-awful terrible. Yeah. So the Phillies will start a 3-game series now with the San Diego Padres. Padres a little bit of a different ball club than the Phillies faced a while back, thanks in large part to the acquisition of Luis Arraez. He's been playing some fantastic baseball, back to his hitting prowess that he had last season with the Miami Marlins. Since the trade, he's been absolutely going off there in San Diego. San Diego still flirting with 500 on the season. They're a 37-38 team. They just lost 3 in a row. They got swept by the New York Mets after sweeping the Oakland A's and splitting a 4-game series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they're coming into town 37-38 on the season. Where is my man at? Luis Arraez, holy Stromboli. 348 on the year. With the Padres, I should say. Second best batting average in the national or in baseball right now, 326 overall. But he was hitting just under 300. He was hitting 299 with the Marlins this year. Then he gets traded, and with the Padres, good Lord, hitting 348 on the season with his only home run and an on-base percentage of 402. So, yeah, it'll be fun. More tests for the Phillies pitchers. More tests for the Phillies pitchers. Before I go to the chat check, see how you guys are doing. I hope you guys had a wonderful Father's Day as well. I hope all the dads got to enjoy a wonderful Father's Day and all that. I did. So it was a great time. But over the weekend, I was, of course, thinking about your Philadelphia Eagles. We've talked about how Saquon Barkley there's no tampering there between the Eagles and Saquon Barkley because, what is Howie stupid? No, Howie's not stupid. But I'm noticing this conversation starting up about the Philadelphia Eagles and kind of it's in the vein of overhyping. And I don't know if it was the Chris Sims list that we talked about on Friday that has started to get this conversation going again or whatever. But I feel like the Eagles have had a fantastic offseason. And I think the aforementioned Howie Roseman has done a really good job of, dotting the I's, crossing the T's and all that. And we're kind of in this low point now where you don't have training camp. Mini camp is already broke. Rookie camp's done. You've gotten a little taste, a little appetizer of everything for training camp getting underway in 4.5 weeks now. So we got a little bit of time, and I don't know if this is this is usually the over analyzing time. And I think what people are really focusing on right now is the idea of Vic Fangio's defense coming in here. I think people have a lot of confidence in the offense with the pieces assembled, but I'm getting a sense right now that this is the time. And we are guilty of this really 12 months a year. It's not like this is anything new, but I think this is the time in particular where we start to really delve into it, really dive into what this Philadelphia Eagles team is going to be. And we have no more evidence to present. We only have training camp to look forward to. And right now it's like, okay, in the 6-week layoff here where you cross your fingers and you hope nobody gets in trouble. And that's what coaches are always saying, hey, you're going to have some time off. Nobody do anything stupid that could affect your status for the season. Nobody do anything stupid that could be that distraction. Other than that, people just start to overanalyze the roster. I think what people are starting to look at now with this Eagles team really doesn't have anything to do with the offense other than the play of Jalen Hurts. And we can certainly talk about that all day, every day. But I think what people are starting to move past, realizing that, yeah, this is a no-excuse year for Jalen Hurts. You can't have, and I've said this many times before, you can't just look at Kellen Moore and be like, oh, well, he needs a year in the offense to really get adjusted. No. With the talent around you, this should be a very easy adjustment. Even if it's 95% different, even if we're all on the same page now and we really understand that Nick Sirianni is an overseer, assistant regional manager, you know what I mean? We all get that. It's all confirmed now. I saw the reports coming out there from Jeff McClain talking about how the Eagles didn't like the answer that Jalen Hurts gave. Yeah, no kidding. But I think people are starting to move past that already and starting to look at the defense. Because already, look, I think people are now settling into the idea at least that, oh, okay, he's not going to be Jonathan Gannon. He's not going to be Sean Desai. He's going to be a little bit better than that. But what they land on is still the idea of not being aggressive, still the idea of quarters defense, and not really knowing who your starting cornerbacks are even going to be. James Bradbury, I still think, has already played his last game as a Philadelphia Eagle. I'd be very surprised if James Bradbury suited up in Brazil playing opposite Darius Slay. I think people have gotten a great taste for what Quentin Mitchell can bring. I think people have gotten a great taste for the mindset of Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, obviously. I think people understand that Keely Ringo is still very much competing. And one of my main takeaways from minicamp was this guy is shouting from the rooftops, don't forget about me. But I think people are really focusing on, even more so than corner, is the defensive line. One of my takeaways from minicamp was that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have it in their heads right now that nobody's coming to save them. They have it in their heads right now that this is their time. There's no more, we have a nurturing and maturing process. We have a maturation process that has to go through. No. Now is the time. And what's really crazy about that is that the way the Eagles are built right now, there's nobody. It's not going to be Milt Williams taking over the interior defensive line. Fletcher Cox isn't walking through that door to play. This is the thinnest they have ever been in recent memory. As far as the last 20 years, this is the thinnest they have been in a 4-3 defensive front, base 4-3. This is the thinnest the Eagles have ever been in their defensive tackle spots. You look at the last 20 years or so, I mean, you can always rely on at least a two-man punch, especially with Fletcher Cox being in the middle of that defensive line. Go back to our friend Hollis Thomas. You can always depend on a thick and stout defensive line, interior defensive lineman. I have confidence that Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are going to be phenomenal athletes and do a wonderful job. The question is for how long? I know Jordan Davis is in the best shape of his life, and he's playing great. And listen to Clint Hurt talk about Jordan Davis and how great he's attacked everything and how serious he's taking this. Same thing with Jalen Carter. I mean, all the right things are being said. It's not like 2 years ago when Nick Sirianni was asked about Jordan Davis and asked about his conditioning or Jalen Carter's conditioning, and it was like, it's a work in progress. No. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, no, they're ready to go. They understand what's being asked of them. And that's what was said through minicamp, through rookie camp about guys like Jordan Davis and guys like Jalen Carter, that they are attacking this opportunity they have in front of them. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. But when you really jump into it and you talk about what really matters, it's their play on the field. And we can't determine that, obviously, right now. All the right things are being said. All the right words are being earned, more importantly. I don't get the sense that anybody's covering for anybody. But when you talk about this defensive line, I think that's what has a lot of people raising their eyebrows going, all right, are they really ready for this challenge? Because, look, training camp can go great, and Clint Hurt can say beautiful things, and Jalen Carter can say the right things, and Jordan Davis can, pour the honey potion in your ear. But when it comes to actually starting the season, that's when it comes time to prove it. And I think people are gaining confidence, thinking, even if they don't know who the starting corner is going to be, between Ringo, Mitchell, and maybe even DeJean, people are looking at it like they'll be set. They'll still be good at corner, as long as it's not James Bradbury. The safety position with Reed Blankenship and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think people are going to be confident in the safety position here. But defensive line, we're used to just name after name being ready to go. And the Eagles right now being as thin as they are, I mean, I think you have three solid choices there between Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and obviously Milton Williams. You're used to having maybe that one more guy that is able to move mountains in the middle of that defensive line. So that's something that I think once you move past maybe question marks on offense, whether it's Jalen Hurts' overall ability as a quarterback, what he's going to do in year one with Kellen Moore, what he's going to do as far as being on the same page as his new center and the shoes that have to be filled there by Cam Jurgens, move past that. And I think what people are starting to focus in on now right now is, all right, what's this whole thing going to look like? As I've said many times, we've had the cover band playing the Vic Fangio hits. Now we have Vic Fangio playing Vic Fangio hits. What's that really going to look like? Does he have a secondary to be able to support it? And will he get enough push from the interior defensive linemen to help out those corners and help out the rest of that secondary? Is it a deep enough spot? Do they have enough guys that have enough talent to continue to have a push the way they've had with Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, for instance, going back even more than a couple years there. So for me, that's what I think the shift of focus has gone to. And you could file it under, we got 4.5 weeks now to really be looking at this. And this is where we're going to overanalyze. This is where we're going to try to mentally prepare our expectations for the Eagles in the upcoming season. And then after that, you just hope, all right, everyone stay out of trouble. Please, everybody stay out of trouble. That'd be great. Let me tell you about MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. Download the app to your phone, create an account, use promo code FARZI, and get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. Want to bet on the world of baseball? You can do it. Want to bet on the world of basketball? NBA Finals tonight, 8:30. Back in Beantown. Boston looking to finish things off there with the Mavericks. Boston minus 6.5. They are a 6.5-point favorite in this one. Good times. Download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus. Bet on the world of sports, not your thing. Bet on the world of television. Bet on the world of politics. That's always fun. Do that on MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus. How about Game Time app? Download the Game Time app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase. You know what I love about the Game Time app? Let's say Phillies are back in town. Phillies are back in town for the first time in 13 days. You want to go to a game? Want to scratch that itch? Do it with the Game Time app. Make sure you use promo code Farzy and get $20 off your first purchase. Here's what I really love. The Game Time guarantee, which means if you find tickets in the same section, same row, for less money, Game Time will get you back on 110% of the difference. That's the Game Time guarantee. Guaranteed lowest price. Also, they have last-minute ticket deals, flash ticket deals. They even have ticket deals for an hour after the game starts. Maybe you're going to a concert. Maybe you're going to a comedy show. Though that still applies right there, an hour after the event starts. It's all available right there on the Game Time app. So if you want to go to the Phils tonight, Phils and Padres, download the Game Time app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get to the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine Monday morning. Can't wait to see how we're feeling about our Phillies today. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? Sean Kilrain, hello. Sean Kilrain, Soto was mic'd up for Sunday night. Was asked the question you played. Oh, you played with Judge, Harper, Stanton. Who has the power? His response, Harper. Let's go, Dabrowski. Work your magic. Interesting. All right. Sunday Night Baseball, Red Sox, Yankees last night. Was that was that another like 8-2 game? Was that the final of that one? I know the Red Sox took 2 of 3. Beep, bop. Either way, Stanton, Judge, work your magic. Let some crazy magic. Sean Kilrain, Nikki 3 buttons is a joke. Couldn't agree more. I assume that says Farzy. Sorry, I didn't talk that ish this weekend. All good, brother. All good. CZ, what's popping? IBH, what's going on? Fuji. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, folks. Happy Monday. The fighting's coming back home at the right time. Phillies will be fine. I do feel as if the Phillies will be fine. Charles Dead, what's going on? Good morning, Mark. Happy Father's Day, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Back to you, if it applies. Phillies have to get Sean Gillespie. Phillies have to get their rhythm back. They need their beds. I mean, in all honesty, that does play into it. It's by no means an excuse, but if you're really looking for reasons to justify why this didn't go well, the Phillies are just like anybody else, creatures of habit, especially, as I said, pitchers. And you mean to tell me that the long layoff for Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler didn't help? Like, here's the thing. The Mets suck, all right? Them stepping out of their routine only benefits them because their current routine was sucking at baseball. Like, that was on their agenda. They woke up and be like, what am I going to do today? I'm going to suck at baseball. Okay, cool. The Phillies were like, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to be great at baseball. And then there's a little, no pun intended, curveball thrown into that, little bump in the road thrown into that, and then they're out of the rhythm, they're out of their mojo. They also, it's beyond stupid to me that you go to London and then you don't come home. Like, the Mets came home. They're in their beds. How is that fair? How is that right? It's stupid. I don't like that. Like, even looking at the schedule before anything happened, before the season, I'm like, wait, after London, they got to go on a road trip? Really? So hold on a second. That means in Philly, we don't get to see the Phillies for like 2 weeks. I wouldn't mind not to see Nick Castellanos for 2 months. Well, maybe ever. But like, that's what it comes down to. And I just find that odd. I found that very strange from the schedule makers. It's not an excuse, but if you are looking for like a legitimate reason as to why this hasn't been as good as what we have been seeing all season long, I think it's a pretty legitimate reason. CZ, Phillies will be fine. We need some upgrades. That's all. Here's the thing. I would love to see upgrades. I would love to see Nick Castellanos not here anymore. I'd love to see anybody else in right field for the Phillies at this point. I'm certainly happy that Trey Turner is going to be batting second. I think I've established that. The trade deadline, we still got some time there. I'd like. So last week, I think was it Monday? Whenever the Buster Olney fake tweet came out when he got hacked, and the Phillies were going to get Luis Robert Jr., from the White Sox. Getting an outfielder obviously makes a ton of sense. I still feel as if the guarantee is another bullpen arm. And by the way, you know what I didn't mention in this series? Gregory Soto went out there and actually pitched well. Go figure. For an inning and a third. Yeah, it was an inning and a third. So I was happy to see that. But I still think they get a bullpen arm. I think that's the guarantee. And then the major move that could be made is obviously outfield. Because you have a center fielder in Johan Rojas that even defensively has been struggling this season. You have a right fielder that has just not gotten you anything. For me, I that's the huge spot that the Phillies could make a huge upgrade with. I mean, again, here, let me to hit these one more time. The numbers of Castellanos, like think about these numbers that you're just trying to like. This is just somebody that you can easily replace. And I know guys like him on the team and all that, but you're competing to win a World Series here. And Nick Castellanos, you can't afford for him. A guy who no matter what's going to be batting 1 through 6 in this lineup, probably 6th, but a guy in this lineup, you can't have that guy 183, 182, 111 on base percentage, 241, 287, 224 going through the month. I mean, your last month of the season, he's got a 250 on base percentage. This is awful. There's no excuse. And you can't even get this guy a day off. Like, what does he have pictures of? Who does he have pictures of? And what are those pictures? Who are they with in those pictures? What are they with in those pictures? It like this is beyond comprehension. Give him a day off, man. Look. If I'm running the team, he ain't playing. Who are you going to put in his place? I know is the question. I'd rather have Christian Pache. I'd rather have Johan Rojas. I'd rather have Brandon Marsh. I'd rather have those guys. Like Nick Castellanos in game 2 of the series saw 3 pitches in his first 3 at-bats. If that's going to be your approach, and don't get me wrong, there is not a lot different between Alec Boehm's approach and Nick Castellanos' approach. The thing is that Alec Boehm's approach has worked for Alec Boehm. Nick Castellanos' approach has not worked. So at what point do you make an adjustment? I love the idea. I've said it before of, hey, taking the batting practice and, he's going out there, he's getting the early BP and all that stuff. That's great. Hey, good for you. But the results still aren't there. Oh, I got to trust my own process. Well, trusting your own process you're not that good. Like, I always go back to Nick Castellanos when he was introduced as a Philly and he was down in Clearwater. He put the hat on and the jersey on, and he was asked about his approach to the plate. He goes, I didn't go to college. I hit baseballs. Well, we ain't hitting baseballs right now there, Nicky 3 buttons. We ain't hitting baseball there, Nicky 3 outs, 3 strikes. It ain't going well. It ain't going well. April. Morning, April. Sean Kilrain. 9-6 Red Sox win. Yeah, they took 2 or 3 from the Yankees after taking 2 or 3 from the Phils. The Red Sox are back, baby. Okay, Crawley, what's going on? One of my favorite golfers won a major championship yesterday. Bryson DeChambeau. That was awesome, actually. Him and Rory McIlroy, I caught a little bit of it. Him and Rory McIlroy going back and forth. And then DeChambeau had that amazing shot out of the bunker. Went into the bunker, went not out of bounds, I guess, but had a horrible tee shot, saved it with the second shot. Well, saved it by putting it into the bunker, and then the bunker shot is what saved him, and then he hit the putt, and that was incredible. Just like me in the sand. Today was the first, or excuse me, yesterday was the first Father's Day I didn't play golf with my dad in a very long time. My dad's knees bothered him a little bit, so we couldn't play golf. We were supposed to go fishing. Little Toots wanted to go fishing, and then I guess she didn't want to go fishing anymore. She just wanted to hang out in the pool all day. Just kind of looking forward to that moment. There'll be time. Sean Gillespie, it has to be better on offense and defense now with actual coordinators, hopefully. Sean, I think that's the saving grace for a lot of people. It's that, and look, I said this before, Fangio we kind of knew was getting hired immediately. Kellen Moore, I said this before he was hired, definitely. Actually, no, the season was winding down last year. I was saying this. So, yeah, it was before all the news of who we knew was going to be taking over the spots. I warned you guys, and I think I even said it out loud to warn myself, but it came down to this. Don't look at this Eagles season, or don't look at these Eagles hirings and have the baseline be, well, it can't be worse than Sean Desai. Well, it can't be worse than Brian Johnson. Well, it can't be worse than Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon's defense, people, let's not forget, Jonathan Gannon was a James Bradbury BS holding call away from winning a Super Bowl here in Philadelphia with a number 1 ranked pass defense and a 70-sack season. So I understand that none of us really liked Jonathan Gannon all that much, right? But it was pretty damn close to him being a beloved. So for the idea of it can't be worse than Jonathan Gannon, it could be a lot worse than Jonathan Gannon. It could be Sean Desai worse than Jonathan Gannon. It could be Matt Patricia worse than Jonathan Gannon. And it couldn't be worse. You now have a head coach that's been neutered. So I warn you. I warned you going into the offseason. Don't think, well, it's just as long as anything's better than Desai. No, let's hope that was rock bottom. Let's hope that Brian Johnson was rock bottom. Because for me, looking at Jalen Hurts this year, again, there's no excuses for him. He's got an experienced coordinator. You get on that same page. Oh, he needs time. Well, you know what? If you have that work ethic that I have always praised Jalen Hurts for, if you have that kind of focus that I have always praised Jalen Hurts for, then I don't want to see the photo shoots and all that BS. I just want to see him playing football. Had a nice long offseason, too. You played one playoff game, then you were done. You've had this coordinator for a while. You've been able to get on the same. Well, hopefully you've had the opportunity. You have had the opportunity to at least jump into whatever it is that he wants to do. There's no excuses. I wasn't crazy about Kellen Moore. Then after, not that I had to sell myself on him, but just breaking it down to this. If you would have told me that you got a coordinator now with 20 years of experience as a defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, and then you got an offensive coordinator that has 5 years of experience, has worked with different quarterbacks, and has already had a number 1 ranked offense. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Oh, and he calls plays. I'm feeling pretty good. Oh, and he was calling plays for a guy that's supposed to be, an offensive mastermind in Mike McCarthy. He was calling plays. Okay, I feel better about that. And that's what essentially you have right now. Not essentially, that's exactly what you have right now in Kellen Moore. April, Cassie needs to get his poop together. Poop emoji. Charles said, slow days in the Eagles media. They have to hype up Hurts Soriani beef. Phil's will bounce back. Here's the deal. I find this really odd that some of the takes I've heard on the Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts beef, I really find it odd that people are looking at Jalen Hurts as a bad guy in all this. Jalen Hurts just being honest, man. And Jalen Hurts not being able to say, as I've described it, Martin Frank, who asked the question, was like, the question was basically, say something nice about Nick Sirianni. And Jalen Hurts like, I don't even, The way I took it, and I don't think I explained it in this way yet, but Jalen Hurts doesn't want to tell lies. If you have nothing nice to say about someone, you don't say it. So him being teed up for like a situation of saying something nice about Nick Sirianni, he doesn't want to take credit away from a guy he's been working with now and trying to get on the same page with, and Kellen Moore. He doesn't want to take credit away from Kellen Moore by overpraising Nick Sirianni when it's undeserved. Like, yes, should he have been able to think on his feet? Should Jalen Hurts been able to scramble a little bit, buy some time to make a better play, or in this case, a better statement? Yes, he should have. But he doesn't want to tell a lie. He doesn't want to. Hold on a second. I haven't even talked to Nick about the offense. It's like, what does it show? It shows that he could do less, and he's willing to do less so the team can do more. Could you imagine? Like, with him not saying anything, that's what he said to me. I can't tell you what Nick's doing. I don't even. You mean Nick Sirianni? Oh. Yeah, he's cool. He loves ball, man. He really loves ball. Then, I don't even want to. I hesitate to put this into the ether, but the other thing is, does he look at it as Sirianni got in the way of Brian Johnson actually being good at football or being good as a coordinator? Because let's not forget, Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson are boys. Last year, when the struggles were going on in the offense and all that stuff, Jalen Hurts had said that Brian Johnson's a really good offensive mind. This is a guy who's played quarterback. This is a guy who's called plays in college, you know. This is a guy who's done it before. Like, he basically was building up Brian Johnson as if Brian Johnson wasn't having trouble figuring anything out, more or less. Do I look at it now in hindsight maybe as Brian Johnson was handcuffed by the offensive predictability of Nick Sirianni's offense? They look like Brian Johnson. My hands are tied. I can't do anything. There's no creativity in the offense. What am I supposed to do? Call a bunch of plays that are not creative? Looking back on all that stuff from last year, is that the way I should have been looking at it then? Maybe it wasn't Brian Johnson's fault. Maybe it was just all Nick Sirianni, but Nick Sirianni's still here. Brian Johnson's gone, and now Kellen Moore is running the show. And now you want me to say something nice about Nick Sirianni? I don't. He's got a great message. He says, "Go team, go," and we're like, "Good point." That's kind of how it feels right now. I ain't mad at Jalen Hurts for that, man. Like, you, Eagles fan, say something nice about Nick Sirianni. What do you got? He's been to the playoffs a lot. Yeah, he's been to the playoffs. Okay, that's good. Okay. How much of being in the playoffs is him? How much of being a winning team, is Nick Sirianni? And how much of that is maybe your coordinators, the talent of your team? Dwindling responsibility. It ain't just about not calling plays, folks. It's dwindling responsibility overall. And yeah, I love what Jalen Hurts. I say this. I love how Jalen Hurts answered that question. Loved it. I do not look at him as a bad guy for that. I look at him as an honest athlete. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Again, hope you guys had a absolutely phenomenal Father's Day. Yeah. All right, we'll get to that in a second. First and foremost, let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Phillies now 47-24 on the season. They go back at it at 6:40 tonight against the Padres, start a 3-game series. Randy Vasquez gets the start for the Padres. He's 1-3 on the season with a 4.93 ERA. Christopher Sanchez gets the start for the Phillies. Righty-lefty matchup tonight. Sanchez 3-3 on the season with a 3.07 ERA. How about this? ERA explosions for the Phillies starting pitchers as of late. Christopher Sanchez, first and foremost, gross, coming off his 4 earned runs, 7-hit performance against the Boston Red Sox in that 8-6 loss, where he also allowed 4 walks. Randy Vasquez getting the start there for the Padres. As I mentioned, 1-3 with a 4.93 ERA. He is coming off an outing against the Oakland A's, where it was part of that sweep. He went 5 innings, allowing 1 run on 7 hits. It was a home run. He also issued 2 walks. Prior to that, he allowed 9 runs in his last 3 starts combined, going at least 5 innings in all of them. So if the Phillies will be able to get him back to the pitcher that he has been for the vast majority of the season. As for the standings right now, overall in baseball, the Phillies now have the Yankees ahead of them. They are tied with the Orioles for the second best record in baseball. The Cleveland Guardians, or the Guards, as some have referred to them now, are 44-25 on the season. The Dodgers 44-29. Milwaukee Brewers 42-29. So the Phils, 3 wins behind the New York Yankees. They're a game and a half out of first place overall in Major League Baseball. As for the National League, yes, as one would assume, the Phillies still have the best record in the National League. 4 games up on the LA Dodgers. So that helps put things in a little bit more perspective, and still 8 games up on the Atlanta Braves. That's the way that cookie crumbles. Before we go any further, before we get out of here, you guys that have watched the show from the beginning, and this show is a little over 3 years old now, or 3.5 years old. Right around the time we started the show, I lost my grandfather, Deacon Al Chesnavage of Baltimore, Maryland. And I've told you guys before, I'm not an Orioles fan. I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Orioles, being that my mom is from Baltimore. And my grandfather, here he is, Al Chesnavage, was an usher for the Baltimore Orioles for 25 years. 20 years at Memorial Stadium, 5 years at Camden Yards. And I loved going to Oriole games, knowing that my pop-up, as we refer to him, would be there. And he would always, his section was behind home plate at Memorial Stadium. His section was looking at home plate from behind the field, was a little to the left of home plate at Camden Yards. I loved going there. My mom would always buy the cheap seats. And when we lived down there for a little bit in my youth, one of the greatest thrills was hearing my name come over the loudspeaker at the end of the day at Southern Elementary in York County, Pennsylvania. I think it was Glen Rock. But I could be wrong. But we were there for 3 years, and I'd hear my name come over to the loudspeaker, and it would be Mark Farzetta to the principal's office. Your mom is here to take you home. And I'd be like, sweet, because I knew I was going to the ball game. And my grandfather would be at the game, obviously. My mom would buy the cheap seats, and then my grandfather would wave his usher's rag, his towel, because I don't know if they still do it. They wipe the seats off, And then he would wave that, and that would be the signal to go down before cell phones. This would be the signal to come down. And he'd be like in the 3rd inning, 4th inning, he'd be like, nobody showed up at these seats. Take these seats. My grandfather, very high voice. No, just take these seats right here. And then we'd sit in those seats, like right behind home plate. It was the greatest thing ever. For a kid, it was amazing. I still remember Dwight Evans. This had to be like 1988, 1989. I still remember, because of that setup that we had with my grandfather, I still remember Dwight Evans, who played 1 year with the Orioles after a long career in Boston. Dwight Evans hitting a grand slam against the Oakland A's, the Bash Brother Oakland A's. I remember Dwight Evans hitting the grand slam. I want to say it was in the bottom of the 9th inning to force extra innings. And I could still, because I was so close, literally the first seat behind home plate, I still remember Dwight Evans grunting like that as he smacked the baseball over the left field wall. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Always remember my grandfather in that orange hat, too, behind home plate. This just seeing this picture, that makes me feel like a kid all over again, man. So happy Father's Day to my grandfather, to my father, to all you dads. Hope you guys had a wonderful Father's Day yesterday, and all that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. I love this is the last thing I'm saying. Farzy can't bet tomorrow. Mark Farzetta to the weight room. Mark Farzetta to the weight room. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'll be back with you guys on Locked On Sports Philadelphia tonight after the Phillies 6:40 start time. 6:40. Love it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be back with you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Farzy Show YouTube channel. Make sure you guys subscribe to Jacob Media YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the all-new Locked On Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel as well. Really appreciate the support you guys have been giving us over there as well. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. See you guys tonight on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. Bye.